So let's start with a question. What if the whole purpose of education wasn't just about filling our minds with information, but about uncovering a treasure that's already hidden inside each of us? That's the powerful idea we're exploring today, an approach that starts not with an empty mind, but with a hidden potential just waiting to be discovered.
And this one idea, right here, it pretty much flips the traditional model of education on its head. It suggests that qualities like compassion, kindness, and wisdom, well, they aren't things to be learned from scratch. They're more like gems, already inside us, just waiting to be polished and revealed. Education, then, becomes this amazing process of discovery, not just instruction.
So let's really reframe our thinking for a minute. This question, it changes everything, doesn't it? It shifts the goal from just knowing a bunch of stuff to actually becoming a person who can contribute to the world in a really profound and meaningful way.
All right, so to really get how this works in practice, we're going to follow the entire journey of human development. We'll start at the very beginning of life and go all the way to our role in building a better society. Okay, let's start with the absolute core belief that drives this entire approach. And that's the idea that education is really a process of refinement, of helping each person bring out the virtues and capacities that are just lying dormant within them.
So when we talk about potential, we are not talking about a blank slate. Not at all. We're talking about a soul that comes, you could say, preloaded with these incredible powers. We've got spiritual ones, like the capacity for love, and intellectual ones, like the capacity for really understanding the world around us.
So how do we kick off this process of discovery with the youngest learners? I mean, how do you actually help a child start to uncover their own inner gems?
This quote just perfectly captures the approach. A child isn't some miniature adult, right? They're like a tender little sapling. The care and the environment they get in these early years, well, that's going to shape their growth for their entire life. And in practice, a children's class is meant to be simple, joyful, and, well, reverent. It's not about complex lectures. It's all about creating this loving atmosphere through a certain rhythm of activities, from prayers and songs that kind of lift the spirit to stories and games that teach these big spiritual lessons in a way a child can actually understand.
And notice the focus here. The curriculum isn't really organized by subject, but by virtues. Every single lesson is designed to help children understand and then practice a specific spiritual quality. It's about building what's seen as the absolute, indispensable foundation for all other kinds of excellence.
Okay, so what comes next? What about those turbulent but super energetic years between, say, 12 and 15? This model doesn't see early adolescence as a problem to be fixed. It sees it as a really unique stage with its own special purpose.
This period is actually called life's springtime. A time of huge energy, growing intellectual power, and this dawning sense of justice. So the goal isn't to contain all that energy, but to channel it towards something bigger, a higher purpose.
This program creates a space where young people can consciously figure out how to navigate all these conflicting messages society throws at them. So instead of just passively soaking up values from advertising and social media that say your worth is all about how you look, they're empowered to develop what's called spiritual perception, build a strong moral identity, and learn to direct their newfound powers towards serving their communities. Now let's see how this educational journey keeps going into adulthood. Because the learning definitely doesn't stop, it just takes on a new form, one that's intensely practical and really community-oriented. The main setting for adult learning is something called the study circle. Now, this is not a lecture, and it's not your typical book club. It's a participatory environment where a small group of friends, with a facilitator, study together with one specific goal in mind: to build their capacity to serve. The aim isn't just knowing, it's doing. So the cycle begins with study. In this really supportive group setting, participants explore spiritual concepts and principles, but not in some abstract academic way. They're talking about the meaning and how it directly applies to their own lives and their own communities. But, knowledge without action is incomplete. This is the crucial next step. Participants go out and they apply that knowledge through real, concrete acts of service. Whether that's hosting a community gathering, starting a children's class, or maybe mentoring a youth group. Service becomes the laboratory where understanding is really put to the test.
And anyone who's ever tried to put theory into practice knows exactly what happens next. The real world, it's complex. Service brings up new questions and challenges that you could never, ever have anticipated just from reading a book. It forces a much deeper level of engagement with the ideas.
which of course brings everyone back to their study, but not as beginners. They're coming back with real-world experience. This creates this powerful, dynamic cycle of action and reflection. Knowledge fuels service, and service deepens understanding, pushing the group to new heights with each turn of the wheel.
So the crucial point here is this. Where is all of this going? What's the ultimate purpose of this lifelong educational journey?
Well, it all begins with the individual. The entire process is designed to help people refine their character, develop their virtues, and really orient their whole lives around service to others. But it absolutely does not end there. As you can kind of see from how all this is interconnected, that individual transformation becomes the engine for collective action. As more people walk this path, they start to work together, weaving this new pattern of community life that's based on cooperation and mutual support. This quote just captures the grand vision perfectly. Personal growth isn't an end in itself. Its true value is only realized when it's directed towards the well-being of all of humanity. The two are just completely inseparable.
You know, this entire framework is really a living experiment in answering that question. It's a systematic effort to unlock the treasure within every single person, not just for their own benefit, but for the benefit of everyone. And it leaves us with this really hopeful and challenging question. What would our world actually look like if we all committed to this journey of discovery?